Hello, my name is Barbara Leland, and I'm a certified holistic health coach in Huntington Beach, and I do the healthy eating classes here at Hogue. And today we're going to talk about, here we are in December, so pretty soon that'll be it, it'll be over. But right now we're going to talk about tradition and how we can bend it and not break it. So I don't know if you ever saw the play or the movie Fiddler on the Roof, but the basis of that was Tevye, who is the man you see here. He's struggling to keep his traditions around him because his traditions are starting to crumble. Not just his traditions, but his family's traditions and his community's traditions are starting to crumble. And what he says in the very beginning is, without our traditions, our lives would be as shaky as a fiddler on the roof. And then it pans to the fiddler on the roof, kind of like almost falling off the roof while he's playing his fiddle. So what he's saying is that traditions are important in our life to keep us grounded. And we have many cultures in our area and in the world, and every culture has their own tradition. And there are a lot of benefits. So as Tevye was saying, to keep the traditions, there's reasons why. They provide us with a source of identity. So we know where we came from by our traditions. We know what has gone on before and what has shaped our lives. And it connects generations. So the new generations continue the traditions of the old generations. And that helps us feel that we're part of something unique and special, and we are. We are. And when we're keeping our traditions, we're making memories for our children, our grandchildren, and those traditions are going to continue. So it gives us something to look forward to. We know good things are going to happen. And it gives us consistency. So year after year, we have the tradition of, we know in December, right after Thanksgiving, at least here in the United States, we know that the Christmas lights are going to go up, right? We know we're going to start seeing decorations. We know what kind of foods are going to start appearing in the markets. We know the different sales even that are going to happen. But it's all tradition, and we know the types of foods our family's going to make. And it gives us consistency. We know who we're going to see. And now we're back to seeing people that we haven't seen for some time. So that is important. It gives you something to stand on, to know what's going to happen. And then it strengthens bonds with your friends and family. And these ladies here looks like they're having hot chocolate on a cold December night with Christmas lights in the background, and you can see how they are strengthening their bonds of friendship. And it's the same with your family. Everybody is doing the same thing over and over and over again. And what that does is, we're always talking about feeding our bodies, nurturing our bodies, giving our bodies nutrition, but it's also our mind and our soul is part of our holistic health. And so it gives us food for our holistic being. And okay, so we have studies that show that happiness, or the lack of happiness, can affect our immune system. Now, they've been doing studies also on whether or not happiness or not unhappiness affects cancer. And they haven't had conclusive studies on that, but what they do find is that this affects our immune system. So if we know that our immune system helps us fight many things, even things that we have propensities to. So, for example, we've talked before about this, we may have a propensity towards diabetes, but we work on it by the way we eat, we're aware, and we are able to hold it off at bay for type 2, of course. We may have a propensity, we may have cancer in our families, but we do certain things to prevent. And one of those things that we do is build up our immune system. So if we're building up our immune system by eating the correct foods and by staying away from pollutants and pesticides, also the happiness is building up our immune system as well. And stress, which is, kind of goes hand in hand with unhappiness, is detrimental to the immune system. So we want to keep our happiness level up in whatever way we can. And if that's tradition, which it is, then for the most part, for most people, then by all means, don't break your traditions. So enjoy your holidays, but keep it in balance. So we want to have happy holidays. We want to enjoy our holidays and our traditions, but we want to remember where we've worked hard this year to get to this place of, health and fighting disease. So we want to keep that in balance. So how are we going to maintain our traditions and keep our health on track? Do we have to make these choices? Well, you don't have to break your tradition just because they may not be that healthy, but bend them. So here's Santa. Instead of eating a cookie that may have been left out for him, he's choosing the salad. So Santa is going to go home feeling a lot better than he would have if he had the cookie, right? Okay. So I did a survey and I wanted to know what your traditions were. And thank you for those of you who responded. I really appreciate that you gave me your input. And as I said, I'm not going to broadcast the different people and the different traditions, but I used it to get input for this seminar. So thank you very much. And in the survey, one of the main things that we discovered is that our traditions are high in the food and drink area. So some of the things that we can do to keep our traditions and keep our health are: you want to make your first plate small. So if you fill up your first plate small, your small first plate, you are not going to be so tempted, because you're not going to be starving after that, to go back and get so much more. Maybe you'll get a little bit more, but you're not, if you fill up your first plate large and then you go back for seconds because everybody else is going back for seconds, that may be the only reason you do it. Because it sounds good, right? Let's go get some seconds. Okay. But if your first plate is small, then you don't have to worry as much on your second plate. Keep the second plate small as well, and you're going to be eating probably half of what you would have normally eaten. Fill a quarter of your plate with veggies and salads, and fill a quarter of your plate with fruits. If there aren't any fruits, fill a half of your plate with veggies and salads. So basically what you're doing here is you're filling half of your plate with veggies, salads, and fruits. That leaves space for the other traditional, maybe some potatoes, maybe some, if you eat the meat, some of that, whatever. But you're still getting half of your plate filled with fresh vegetables and fruits. And then rethink your drink, and we'll come back to this because that's important. And then don't forget dessert. Go ahead and have it. This is not every day. Have a small piece of whatever it is that you love, and then don't worry about it. But don't deny yourself because you're going to feel, you're going to feel sad about that. So some of the things that we can do to change things about is we can have different foods available. So you might want to think, this is just a suggestion, vegetable pot pie. You could have this instead of or in addition to a turkey or a ham or prime rib. And you can have it vegetarian, you can have it vegan. Be careful about how much fat you're using in the crust. There's lots of recipes out there for things like this. And it's savory and delicious, and it might just hit those buttons to keep you from eating too much of the animal products. And then when you're making your vegetable dishes, try to incorporate dishes that aren't full of butter and cream. And really, once you start eating this way, eating just nice roasted vegetables or fresh salads, you start losing your taste or your tolerance for butter and cream dishes, heavy dishes. And you really won't feel well if you do eat them. So when you make your roasted vegetables, add herbs and spices such as, for this time of year, rosemary and sage and things like that. And when you're roasting, I roast my vegetables at 400, so I use grapeseed oil. If you roast them at 350, you can go ahead and use olive oil. But anything over 350, I know there's some olive oils that say you can roast over 350, but if you're using virgin, extra virgin olive oil, stop at 350. And so for 400, which is what I do, I use grapeseed oil. And they're absolutely delicious. And then salads too. Don't forget about the salads. You can get creative. They don't have to be salads like the boring one that Santa was eating, but you can get creative with them, like with Brussels sprouts and broccoli, kale. All of these are really delicious and make beautiful salads. And by adding things like cranberries or pomegranates, you have those colors coming out at you. And we start eating with our eyes. And if it doesn't look good, you're not going to really be attracted to eat it. So make it as pretty and as appealing as you can. Stuffing can be made vegetarian, and I went to a Thanksgiving and the hostess made a vegetarian stuffing, and I was so grateful for that. And it was really delicious. And she used mushrooms. I don't think she put chestnuts, but she used mushrooms in it. And it was very delicious. Chestnuts also give it a meaty feeling to substitute for some of those innards that you use for stuffing. And you can use whole grain bread, or you can use wild rice. Wild rice stuffing has been a mainstay for a long time. So there's a lot of options that you don't have to use the white bread, and you don't have to use the meat to make a nice stuffing. And I guess then you wouldn't really call it stuffing because you're not stuffing it in an animal, right? Mashed potatoes, you can replace, potatoes are good for you. I'm not saying they're not, but when we start mashing potatoes and putting lots of cream and butter, peeling the skins off, that would be my first thing. When you're making mashed potatoes, keep the skins on. You're losing a lot of nutrients, you're losing a lot of fiber. Just scrub them well before you boil them, and keep the skins on. And then also, you can replace half of the potatoes with cauliflower. You're still going to have a delicious mashed potato taste and feel, but you're going to have half of the carbs and the starch that you'd have with the potatoes. And then the cream and butter, you can replace that with maybe if you're doing dairy, you can use some Greek yogurt, or you could make some cashew cream, which we've done in seminars before. And if you don't remember, you can email me. You can do cashew cream and use that for the cream and butter. And you're still going to have that richness in your mashed potatoes. And you can have gravy made with mushrooms, which put your mushrooms out in the sun about 20 minutes to half an hour before you cook them to get that vitamin D that they will absorb. And when you make your gravy made with mushrooms, it's very satisfying, it tastes delicious, and you don't need to make it with the drippings from the meat product. I actually don't know how to make gravy, so I'm not exactly sure how you do that, but I think you use drippings from the meat. So, sweet potatoes, yams, you can forget about using sugar or brown sugar, marshmallows. Sweet potatoes are so delicious on their own. They're already sweet. So if you roast them with sage and rosemary, sea salt, a little bit of grapeseed oil, again, because I do mine at 400, they're dynamite, and they're already sweet. So if you want to make them sweeter, then instead of using brown sugar or marshmallows, take the honey or maple syrup or even date syrup, which we've talked about date syrup before, which it's lower on the glycemic index, won't affect your blood sugar as much, and it's very and it's not as sweet either as honey or maple syrup. So you might like that, and then you can use spices to spice it up and sweeten it up, so cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg. And then for the bread, if you're having bread with your dinner, have whole grain rolls or whole grain loaves or etc. Not just whole wheat, but whole grain. And you could also choose to use non-gluten made with almond or oat flour. I actually have a recipe for almond flour bread on my website that comes out pretty good. It's a little cakey, so you want to, when you slice it, then put it in the toaster, and then it firms up better. So that's an option also. And then when you go for your dessert, just take a little bit, and that'll satisfy you because it's pretty darn sweet. And so if you figure that a standard pie, not a Costco pie, but a standard size pie is cut into 8 pieces, you can still enjoy it, but just go for half of what you'd normally get. So you look at the pie and you figure, okay, 8 slices, what is 1/16 of that pie? Take that. If you want more after that, if you're not satisfied, then go ahead and take a little bit more. But that probably is going to satisfy you. A lot of times we take something because it's given to us, that size, and then even though we're done with it halfway through, we're going to eat the rest because it's on our plate. It still tastes good. But if you have half that size of pie, you're probably going to be satisfied. So if you're making the pie yourself, you can use coconut sugar or honey or maple syrup for the sweetener, and then you can have your pie and eat it too. So the bigger the plate, the bigger the portion. If you're hosting, try to use smaller plates. People have a tendency to fill their plate up, no matter what the size of the plate. So you can see how the smaller plate, it's nice and filled, and it looks fine. And then as it gets larger, the portions get larger in order to fill up the plate until you have this biggest plate in the bottom. So use a smaller plate, and if you're not hosting, look and see if they have different size plates on the. It's kind of hard sometimes, but remember that if you're hosting, the bigger the plate, the bigger the portion. And then this guy really had a big plate. So again, the bigger the plate, the bigger the portion. We're going to fill it up, right? We don't want empty spaces on our plate. If you're having a small group, you can cut your recipes down, and these are just a couple of suggestions, or not suggestions, but calculations for half of what the measurement is. The reason for that, the reason to make smaller recipes, is because you're going to have leftovers, and the leftovers might derail you more than the actual dinner. And when I'm cooking, I don't look at these charts because I have a Google assistant in my kitchen. So I just ask Google what's half of whatever I'm doing, and for example, half of 3/4 of a cup, and it'll tell me. So that's a good thing. If you have Google on your phone too, you can just do that. But you're trying to avoid having too many leftovers, unless you're able to give all your leftovers away. So, but it's not just one night, right? It wasn't just Thanksgiving, and it's not just Christmas, and it's not just all the other holidays, and it's not just Hanukkah. It's more than one night. It's the whole season, right? So we're kind of in trouble here with the whole season looming. And when we go to parties, we end up throwing caution to the wind, right? We forget about our convictions of eating healthy. After a drink, it's easy, right? It's easy to forget about it. So when you're going to a party or having a party, bring or make healthy snacks for your appetizers. These are cucumber rolls in the middle there that you could fill with some pesto, or you could fill with some cilantro spread or whatever you like. And then also there's cucumber rolls also that have some salmon in it and some, I believe that's maybe some, it could be some cashew cream or it could be some cream cheese. Down the bottom we have salmon rolls. So if you do eat fish, this is smoked salmon, and then they put the cucumber and the little bit of cream cheese inside. These are not too bad, and looks like there might be some sprouts in there. Hummus, these things are all not going to be a problem for you. Vegetable plates, that won't be a problem. So bring healthy treats so that you do have something to eat that isn't going to be off the charts. And then rethink your drink. So now we'll get into that. Something that's nice to have is, especially when you have it in a wine glass or a champagne glass, is some sparkling kombucha. If you know what kombucha is, I would imagine it's a fermented tea, and it has probiotics, but it's actually delicious. So you can have that instead of soda or wine. You still have the feeling of being festive because it's in a pretty glass, but you're not, drinking the alcohol, which, especially when we're dealing with cancer, we want to avoid alcohol. Sparkling mineral water with lime instead of champagne. And again, same kind of thing. Put it in a pretty glass and it'll feel very festive. You could have golden milk with chai spices. I don't know if you've made golden milk before, but it's turmeric and ginger. You use some almond milk, put in some chai spices and warm it up and then froth it. It's very nice. Instead of eggnog. Then you want to limit the alcohol that you have. Either limit or avoid it. So at the most, for every glass of wine or a cocktail, have one of the options that we just spoke of. And if you're having mixed drinks, those can be really high in sugar. So try to use a little bit of juice or something in your mixed drink instead of a sugary mix. And just avoid it. Soda, which regular soda has so many bad things in it, not just sugar, but when we're talking about the sugar, 20 ounces of regular soda can equal 22 packets of sugar. And that's saying nothing about all the chemicals and things that your body, remember again, when you're putting things like this into your body is working to process this. That lowers your immune system. Everything you do is either supporting or fighting against your system. So we always want to support our system. Flavored waters and sports drinks also they're not quite as high in sugar as soda, but they're still way more than those 9 additional grams of added sugar. That is the maximum of what we should be having. Okay, so here's how you rethink your drink. And then when you get home from a party, and the reason I put this in here is because this is what I'm guilty of. And this has happened to me more than once. You're really good at the party and you're working hard to not eat all the stuff that's going around, and then you get home and you're deprived. You feel deprived because it's like you spent 3 or 4 hours warding off the bad food. So you start looking, well, is there something I can snack on? So when you get home, keep up the good work. You did a good job, keep it up. Keep that refrigerator closed. And also this could also be me in the morning with leftovers. So again, when I say try to avoid having too many leftovers, this is me, only it's not me, but it's me. Okay, and so I try to avoid having too many leftovers because I will be refrigerator dining the next day. So also you want to rethink your baking. So remember we were talking, this is the same picture from before, remember we were talking about making memories. When we make memories, can those memories not be healthy memories? So we're making memories with our children, with our grandchildren, with other people who look up to us, or not, but they want to bake with us. And those memories, why not make them healthy? Why not have it be, you know, in 10 or 20 years when this kid is thinking back on being with his mom or his grandma or whatever, or grandpa, why not have it be, oh, I remember how she told me or he told me how healthy it is to eat it this way and how that's good for me. Why not? That is just as viable. And you know, the kids are like sponges, right? They're going to pick that up and they're going to carry it with them. So rethink your baking so that you can redo how they have their memories. Sorry, had a brain fog there. And then when you're baking, so some of the things that you could do when you're baking, whether you're making memories or doing it yourself, is use, again, the natural sweeteners, coconut sugar again, honey, maple syrup, and date syrup. All of these are better than white sugar. They're still sweeteners, but they are better than. You can also use dates as a sweetener. When you're making certain things, you can put your dates in the food processor, put some whatever liquid you're using, blend it up, and use that as a sweetener. You can use bananas as sweeteners. Other fruits, whole fruits that you can use as sweeteners. And that's going to process so much better in your system than the processed sugar, of course. These items here, the coconut sugar, the honey, maple syrup, etc., those are going to process better than the white sugar. But if you use whole fruits, like bananas or whole dates or apples, as your sweetener, that really is going to process so much better in your system than any of these items. And then make your cookies and cakes with whole grain flours. Whole grain, again, not whole wheat, but whole grain. There's a difference. Or alternate flours. And then coconut oil makes a great butter replacement. But remember that coconut oil is still a saturated fat. So don't go overboard with it just because it's not butter. Okay? And I'm not saying that butter is off the table, but you do want to be careful with it. And if you're vegan or trying to stay away from dairy, then coconut oil is a great replacement. Some of you told me on the survey that you go out for some of your meals, some of your special meals. So when you're doing that, be prepared. Usually if you're going out for a meal for a holiday, it's a set menu, it's a set menu, prefix. So you can call the restaurant, find out what they're serving, if someone else has set up the dinner. Find out what they're serving. See if there's any way that you can switch some of those things out. And you know, it might not be that easy because it's a holiday and so they're going to be crazy busy. But if you do it in advance rather than waiting till you get to the restaurant, at least you know if they can accommodate you or if they can't. If they can't accommodate you, maybe you want to have a little food before you go, so you can just eat the things that work for you when you get to the restaurant and not be derailed by whatever they're giving you. So be prepared for that. And then also on the survey, there were other things that you guys told me about. And one of those things was walking, that you enjoy walking with your family after dinner or even taking hikes during the holiday period. And that's great. I have nothing that I can say that could make that better because that's really fabulous. Look at this happy group. So continue doing your walking and walk as much as you can during the holiday period, and that's going to help you too. And then, for example, you could make a choice here. You want to go look at the Christmas lights, which is something I really enjoy doing, and that was something that was on the survey. Go look at the Christmas lights, but you could do it where you're sitting in your car, driving around, looking at Christmas lights, or you can go and walk through neighborhoods, and it's beautiful, and there's other people, you're all outside, so it's all safe and no problems, and you can go and walk and look at the Christmas lights and get a little bit of exercise while you're doing it. It's really a stroll, so you're not going to be breaking a sweat or, running out of breath, but still, it's better than sitting in the car, right? And it's super enjoyable, and you're interacting with other people. So it's super nice. And then take some time to remember about yourself. Don't get caught up so much in the frenzy of shopping and cooking and preparing and planning that you don't have time to spend some time meditating, regrouping, and relaxing. So remember yourself and be good to yourself. And we're trying to be nice. Sometimes we're naughty, but the biggest thing is we're going to try our best. Now, Yoda would say there is no try, just do, but sometimes this feels better. So do the best that you can and enjoy your holiday season. And Gandhi said, it's good to swim in the waters of tradition, but to sink in them is suicide. So keep those traditions going, bend them so that they fit your healthy lifestyle and the healthy lifestyle of your loved ones. And be able to enjoy it while keeping on track, pretty much, okay? And when you fall off track, just get back on. Just get right back on. Don't worry about it. Don't beat yourself up. Just get right back on, because remember this, do the best you can, okay? So, if we have any questions? No questions. Okay, well, if you have some questions later on, you can reach me at 2life-2health@hotmail.com, and you can check out my website at www.2life-2health.com. And next week, same time, same place, 2 o'clock next Thursday, we'll be back here to do a demo on healthy food that you can use for your holiday table. And it's quite delicious. And we'll see you then. Okay, look forward to seeing you. And if you have any questions in the meantime, send me an email. Okay, bye-bye.